Welcome back to the main topic. My name is Vianney Verdon Maldonado, and I am your host. Today, we will be talking about the Study Abroad program at Wallace State. To talk about the Study Abroad program today is Miss Susan Peak.
Hi, I'm Susan Peak. I am an academic advisor here at Wallace State, and I sponsor the Wallace State International Club and our study abroad trips.
Could you tell me a little bit about yourself and how you ended up working at Wallace State?
So, my goal had been to teach history at the collegiate level, but I graduated during the last economic recession, and there just weren't a ton of jobs in higher ed. So I took the first temp job I could find at a college in Birmingham. Got a promotion there into what they called student services, which was a lot like what Wallace State called success coaching. And so when the success coaching program was started here in 2013, I was lucky enough to be able to join that first group of success coaches. And in 2020, success coaching merged with academic advising. And that's how I wound up where I'm at.
Oh, that's so cool. How did you end up being the sponsor of the International Club?
So I lived abroad as a kid. I studied abroad when I was in college and lived overseas. And I had wanted to sponsor the club for a long time. And the club had a sponsor. And when that sponsor took a promotion and wasn't able to do the same amount for the club and for the study abroad activities, she asked if I'd be willing to step into that role. And I was absolutely thrilled to be able to kind of step into what is one of my first loves in education, which is intercultural education.
What is the Wallace State Study Abroad program?
So Wallace State Study Abroad program is an opportunity for students to be able to gain exposure to other people, places, culture, and languages. This is accomplished primarily through us going together as a group, often called cultural tourism or faculty-led study abroad. And everything, but there's also room for students to be able to go abroad on their own for a summer or for a semester. We have a partnership with the University of West Alabama where students can actually study abroad for a semester at the same tuition rate they would pay here at Wallace State and everything. But primarily it's us going together as a group and getting this exposure to another world together.
How long have you been part of this program, and do you run it on your own?
So I've been part of the program for about a year now. Last fall, we were asked to put together, or I was asked to put together a study abroad trip. So that was my first one that I've gotten to plan for other people besides myself. And while I am the only sponsor for the Wallace State International Club, Study Abroad is co-led by the Director of Student Engagement, Dakota Nichols.
Where have you gone with the program so far?
So since the program has just kind of gotten back up and running post-COVID, we've only actually had one study abroad trip so far. We had the opportunity to go over spring break of 2024 to Barcelona, Spain.
Yay! I actually went with her too. It was really cool.
It was amazing.
I love
It was a great
Barcelona.
trip.
Yeah. What does a study abroad program schedule look like? And are there scheduled trips, excursions?
So that's a great question. It really depends on the trip. Some trips are super fast-paced and involve every moment being scheduled. As a study abroad leader, both myself and Dakota, we try to avoid that. We want students to be able to experience a city.
Yeah.
And so while we do have scheduled activities and events mixed in, we also have plenty of free time for people to be able to explore the things that interest them, the areas of the city that they want to see, and get plugged into local life and local culture in whatever way they can in the brief time that we're there.
What is the typical cost of a trip, and are there extra expenses?
So we try to keep trips for students somewhere nearing $3,500 or less to include airfare, hotel, in-country group transit buses, trains, and breakfast every day and a couple of dinners. But when you're studying abroad, you have to, of course, plan for other types of expenses as well. Some of the things that tend to come up are, of course, souvenirs. Everybody buys more than what they ever thought they were going to or plan to. You might know something about that
Yeah,
just
I
a little
do.
bit. Me too. I could not believe when I got home and added up how much I spent on souvenirs, how much I really did.
Yeah. No, let's not talk about that.
And any sort of during that free time, anything that you're doing during the free time, dinners and lunches, some of those things, and snacks. But just like with anything, you can find ways to do all of that affordably. You don't have to go out to a nice restaurant every night.
Yeah.
I mean, anywhere we're going, there's going to be a grocery store. I mean, you can go get the fixings for a sandwich.
Yeah.
And so you could study abroad for about $3,500 if that's the cost of the trip, and maybe only spend $100 on the extras, or you can go wild and crazy. Now, if you are an adult, over that 25, 30-ish range, you're wanting a room by yourself, or, a married couple together, a room of two, something like that, you might be looking at getting up into that $4,000 range for a trip, just for that more private room.
Yeah. How can studying abroad enrich a student's education and experience?
I don't know that we have enough time to answer that question. There are so many different ways that studying abroad enriches a student's educational experience. Of course, there's the opportunity to engage with another language, to engage with another culture. Studying abroad helps the things that you're learning in the classroom come to life. History, music, art, religion, philosophy, geography, science, all of those things suddenly are right in front of you when you study abroad. But students who study abroad also have better employment prospects when they graduate, because they have the demonstrated ability to adapt to other people, other places, and the resilience that it takes to go to a new place where you don't know anyone or anything. And it demonstrates a skill set to employers that they tend to love. Students tend to be happier in their career fields. It helps them decide what it is that they're going to do with their lives, where they want to do those things. There's really no downside to studying abroad. I mean, everything about it is something that is going to enrich a student's experience and give them memories that last a lifetime.
Normally, when we think about study abroad programs, we think of it as a whole year or a semester. What are the benefits of having a shorter period of time to study abroad?
So, yeah, I mean, traditionally people do think of study abroad as being a full semester or a year. I did a semester-long study abroad program. But as a community college, that becomes somewhat problematic. We have fewer classes that students could take overseas that would transfer back in, because students don't tend to have that wide range of electives. And we want to make sure that whatever students are taking, if they're overseas, is something that would be useful for their degree here. Right. And so while it is possible in certain majors, absolutely, to study abroad, we do like to do the 1 week study abroad because of several reasons. It's more economically feasible for the larger number of students. Students are often able to fundraise or save or go on a payment plan to be able to afford the cost of a week that a semester might be a lot more difficult to fund. And that number seems scarier. And also because a week abroad is a fantastic introduction to being overseas. It can be pretty intimidating if you are a student who has maybe even never left the state of Alabama. Yeah. And all of a sudden we're like, hey, why don't you go live in another country for an entire semester, an entire year? And they're like, I mean, and what? So if you have gone, though, for a week here or a week there, while you're here at Wallace State and you transfer to a university,
Mhm.
or you've been here for a couple of years and you're like, you know what? I'm ready now. I know how to navigate being overseas. I know how to stay safe when I'm overseas. I know how to get help when I'm overseas. I've built this confidence in communicating across languages, across cultures, across time zones. Um, it can be a real confidence booster for students and give them that opportunity in the future where if the only thing we ever offered was a semester or a year-long program, many
Mhm.
students would say, that's just too much right
Yeah.
now. So we like to offer all of those as opportunities for our students. And it's also just a ton of fun to go together with these people. I mean, we're all in this sort of educational journey together. When we went to Spain, I mean, we took this group of students, and I'd say no more than maybe 2 to 3 students in little pairs knew each other before the trip.
Yeah.
And when we came home, I think about how um, bunch of us watched the eclipse together outside, and then how a whole group came to your choir concert.
Yeah.
And
How did you know about that?
Instagram.
Yeah.
My new study abroad Instagram page. It's wscc.international.
Go follow.
And go follow for sure. So I've been trying to keep up with all of my study abroad participants that way, and so I saw that y'all all got to do that.
It was so sweet. I invited them, and they're like, "Oh, we're definitely going."
Yeah,
And so afterwards, they were like, "Oh, we're waiting for you at the front." Yeah, it was so fun.
that's so sweet. I mean,
Yeah.
and y'all weren't all.
Yeah,
all
I
close
didn't know
friends
them.
before. You didn't even know them before.
I knew Emily, but we didn't really talk. And then
Yeah.
after that, we were like best friends.
Yeah.
And then Alexis and Clara, I didn't know them.
Yeah,
But yeah.
and that's crazy. I mean, y'all have been living in the same dorms for a year.
That's what gets me when it's like, I don't know. I don't really expand on
Yeah.
my own, but there's so many people we don't get to meet just because we
Mhm.
don't, like, I guess. Yes.
Yeah.
They're cross country, so they have different stuff, so we don't really have anything in common.
Yeah,
So,
but now you do,
Yeah.
and now you've kind of bonded,
Mhm.
and
yeah.
I mean the
We
people
ran
that
through the airport
That's right,
and
we ran through the airport together.
bonded through that
Yeah.
stress.
I mean, when you go abroad as a group like that,
Mhm.
you come back different.
Yes.
You come back different as a group. You come back different as an individual, and you forge friendships and bonds that
Mhm.
will last the rest of your life.
Yes.
I speak as the voice of experience.
How do you sign up to take a trip abroad?
So, when our trips abroad are approved, we'll begin advertising them, and there'll be an online registration. It's usually through whatever service provider we're using to help us organize the trip. Some facet of their website. So if you're following wscc.international on Instagram, checking your Wallace State news you can use on Mondays, then you'll be able to see those announcements. There'll be a registration link. We'll do some info sessions and things like that, but we'll make sure that you're able to see that online registration.
All right. What do the info sessions entail?
Generally, an overview of where we're going, generally what we can expect out of the itinerary, although it's never, of course, set in stone until we get there. As we discovered in Barcelona when we happened to be there over Holy Week, and that Friday was Good Friday, and several of the things that were on our tour were shut down, but they found other things for us to do, so you just kind of have to have a little bit of flexibility. But the info sessions will kind of go over what we expect out of the trip, the general cost, things like that.
Flexibility is the best trait that you should have.
Absolutely.
While traveling abroad.
Yes, you've got to have flexibility. You got to have flexibility with the people you're traveling with, for the schedule, for the weather, everything.
What are some packing essentials, and did you learn the hard way about forgetting something?
Good shoes are packing essential, like number one. We do a lot of walking on these trips.
So much walking.
So much walking. And so I personally like Skechers slip-ons. They're fantastic for navigating the airport. And I walked 11 miles one day and my feet never hurt. And I'm not a walker. You can look at me and tell. And and so that would be an essential thing is good shoes.
Mhm.
And you kind of have to sometimes put aside a little bit of your fashion sense for practical
Yeah.
shoes, and practical sort of clothing for variable weather through the day. Um, Having a proper converter for the type of plugs that you have.
Right.
There's different zones in Europe. So the plug you use for the UK is not the same plug you would use for Spain. And if you go to other regions of the world, they have their own standard plugs and power conversion as well. So making sure that you're able to plug in your devices. And I would say another number one essential is having some type of small, close body bag, like a belt bag or something similar to that, that you can keep on your person, kind of closer to your chest. Keep it away from pickpockets. We had we were warned before we went to Barcelona that as a port city and a major metropolitan that there might be some pickpockets there, so not put anything in your pocket. So one day I tested that by putting a printout of a map that the hotel had given me in my back pocket, and it took like less than 30 minutes for it to be gone.
I heard about that.
So it's
Yeah.
nothing to be scared of.
Mhm.
But just something to be aware of.
Yeah.
So before you go, make sure that you've invested in a good place to keep your valuables.
Yeah.
And I don't think that I have ever forgotten anything particularly crazy. I may have forgotten shampoo and conditioner one time, but that's not really a big deal.
The hotel has some.
The hotel has it.
Yeah.
There's stores. I mean, here's the thing: is for a study abroad of the type that we're taking, whether you're going for a semester or whether you're going for just a week, we're not taking you anywhere where there's not a store
Right.
where you can buy what you need. It
not
might
like
cost
we're
you a little bit
going-
more.
It's not like we're going in the middle of like the woods or something.
Right. We're not getting dropped off. What's that show? Lone Survivor. Not Lone Survivor. What is that show?
I don't know.
Bear Grylls. Like the man goes into the wilderness and all that stuff. We're not doing any of that. Anywhere we go, you'll be able to get what you need. It just might cost you a little bit more than if you planned ahead and brought it with you.
How bad was the jet lag? Was it worse going there or coming back?
Well, so I am here to say that the jet lag was definitely worse on my almost 40-year-old body than it was on my 20-something-year-old body when I was younger. So if you're going to travel a bunch, do it while you're young. But really going, of course, we were tired. I mean, I think it was like 36 hours from the time.
Yeah, it was a long
No,
time.
sorry. It was like 28 hours or something from the time that we pulled out at Wallace State to the time we were able to climb into our beds at the hotel.
Yeah.
It was a long time and we were so tired. But I think there was also a lot of adrenaline and nobody had any issues getting up that next morning and like going. I mean, I
Yeah.
think we were tired, but we were gone. Coming home though was a whole different ball game, and I felt like it took me a couple weeks to kind of catch up on my sleep. But I also didn't really rest the first day I came back. We came back, we got home, what was it, like
Easter.
1 a.m.
Yeah.
Easter Sunday morning or something. And so, I went to bed for a couple hours and then kind of launched right back into activities and then had to work remotely that Monday and
Straight back to work.
straight back to work.
What is the best part of traveling abroad with students?
The students.
You get to
I
see us
was-
experience everything.
I know it was like it as a parent for me it was the same feeling as when my kids did things for the first time. And I mean watching the students and their families, their faces, y'all's faces like just light up. Seeing the cathedral for the first time when we got to that square, and then the day that Macarena took us into that quiet little magical courtyard that looked like it belonged in a movie, and everybody just went quiet, and like the looks on their faces, this just sheer wonder. And so getting to experience that with y'all, I mean, that might have been even better than getting to experience those moments for myself. getting to know my students in a way that doesn't happen just in an advising setting. Um, you know, we were there for each other, and our safety and the overall success of the trip depended on us um, being able to work together and travel together in harmony, and everybody just blended together so beautifully. All these
We
different
worked as a
personalities.
team.
We worked as a team, and and honestly, going into the Gothic Quarter felt like getting into an escape room. Okay, like it took all of us to figure out how to get out. Unless you didn't want to get out, in which case you would find yourself out. And so getting to witness those moments was just incredibly special. And ever since I came back, people have been asking me how it went. And, they're like, well, you took a bunch of college students overseas, you run into any kind of craziness. And
I
was like,
we were any crazy.
I was like, honestly, we had the best students on the face of the earth, and they were amazing the entire time. And we had such a wonderful experience together. There were a lot of late nights, and there were a lot of early mornings, and I was exhausted, but I wouldn't trade it for anything. And I was nervous taking a group of other students because, when I studied abroad, I remember how wild some of the other students got. And everything. I lived in a host home. The ones that lived in the dorms were, whew. And that was not at all our experience. And it was fantastic. I think a lot of that is owed to just having really great students here. And yeah, so that's really the best part is y'all and getting to be there for that experience for many of you.
From this past trip, what was your favorite memory or experience?
Gosh. I don't know how I'm supposed to choose.
Yeah, it's really hard.
It was such just a great trip in general. Can I give like top 3?
Yeah.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So one of them would definitely be that moment that we walked into the Gothic Quarter for the first time, and everybody's faces just mesmerized, right? Like it was almost ethereal. I loved wandering the Gothic Quarter with my students. There was the day you and I and Eleonora went, and we were wandering. And somebody else was with us too. Alexis was with us. That's right. And then there was another day that I wandered with Emily, and it was just spectacular, like just getting lost in another city. If you've never done it, I highly recommend it. It doesn't sound great, but it really is. Yeah. And then one of the most special experiences for me was because we were there on Good Friday, getting to see the special outdoor story of the Passion of the Christ in Spanish, which I don't speak, but I knew the story so I could follow along. Highlighted in the images carved into the outside of Sagrada Familia. And
I missed that.
Yeah, it was after that farewell dinner, and most folks went back. I went around the front because I thought there was supposed to be like a light show. Yeah. And then it wasn't a light show, but it wound up being even better. But it was really long. It was just a really, really special experience. But the whole thing, just start to finish.
Yeah, the whole thing was a great experience.
Yeah, it was.
We loved the airport running.
Yeah,
I think that was a very...
that was not a special experience.
To me,
those of us who were trying to get everybody on the plane.
Oh, yeah. For you, it probably is really, really
so
like
stressful.
I was just like, haha.
Yeah.
Going through the motions.
No.
When I think about that moment, I'm like... the stress I felt that moment doesn't compare to stress I feel now. So
Okay. Yeah. No, I'm just like, oh my gosh, we're going to miss the flight. And I'm going to be stuck at another city on Easter Sunday with a group of students and a bunch of angry
But we made
parents.
it.
But we made it. We did
And
make
the
it.
adrenaline was like it was still, when I got home, I was like, I can't believe I made it.
Oh, well, and then, of course, on our last flight of the day, I got upgraded to first class because of all of y'all.
Really?
Yeah. So
That's
apparently,
cool. I didn't
I
know
already
that.
had my headphones in, but the stewardess apparently came through the plane and was asking
Oh, I
about
do
teachers.
remember.
Yeah.
I do remember.
And I was doing my own thing and
Yeah.
everything. And all of a sudden, I hear my name being shouted, Miss Susan, Miss Susan, Miss Susan.
Yeah, it was
And
Stacy.
I think it was Stacy, yeah. And yeah, what's going on? And the stewardess says, so I was looking for teachers or educators. We've got some first class seats available, and your students said that you were their teacher and their
Yeah.
educator. So would you like to sit first class? You do not have to ask me twice. So that was really nice. I got really nice snacks on that flight.
Lucky.
So
But
yeah,
you deserve it.
but no, well, thank you. Really, I mean, that was just nice at the end of the day because I got to stretch my legs because it's the very front of the plane. But nothing compared to getting to explore the city with all of y'all.
I do want to say that this trip it was amazing, but because you planned it and because you were there.
Aw.
You and Dakota were amazing chaperones.
Well, thank you.
And if I do go back, I hope you two are
I
there.
mean, that's the plan. So we're planning for next year. Be looking for an announcement really soon. We think we have it nailed down. I can't officially say what it is until after it's gone through all of its approval process. But I promise that it is somewhere that everyone wants to go and everyone loves.
Okay.
And so,
Wink, wink.
hence, yeah. Probably the best Instagram spot in the entire world is on this trip, right? Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah.
Because you know where we're thinking about.
I know.
Yeah.
I think Elle knows kind of too.
Yeah. So y'all be watching the Instagram page. We will have an announcement coming soon-ish. Yeah. And we will, almost as soon as we can make the announcement, we will be going ahead and getting people booked. So that also brings to mind, if you are somebody who wants to go on a study abroad trip, you should go ahead and get your passport. Sometimes it can take 2 or 3 months. And if you decide to go, you don't want that stress of having to wait for it.
Yeah.
And so
I was really stressed the first time.
yes, I was too, because I wasn't even technically renewing mine. I had mine redone after I got married, and it had been expired for a couple years. And so, and it was kind of running up to the deadline where they were trying to start getting our information to start booking things, and they needed my passport information. So I really recommend just going ahead and doing that. It's an easy process. You fill out the form online, you print it out, you take it to the courthouse, bada bing, bada boom, done.
Yeah, and if you do it late, you have to pay more money to get it expedited. That's what I had to do.
Yeah, we heard a story on our trip about a student from another school that actually had delayed and had to drive all the way to New Orleans the day before they left on their study abroad trip. To get their passport, and it cost a small fortune plus all that time and stress. So if you're thinking about going with us now or in the future, go ahead and apply for your passport now.
Well, thank you so much for joining me today. It was amazing.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me. I absolutely loved being here.
Thank you once more to our guest, Susan Peak. The main topic is hosted by me, Vianney Burden Maldonado. Script editing is done by Eleanor Slusser. Audio and video editing is done by Emily Delgado Duarte and Arlette Flores. Outreach management and graphic design is done by Gracie Moody. And all of this is possible through the Wallace State marketing team. If you're interested in listening to more of the main topic, check out our Spotify and YouTube.